Lana Mebal Hadam Menam Jitemba Sanje Jumden. Bejawa Shajato Vala Chasan Wachudo Jasush. Temba Jumden and the Jeshava Jumba Yada. Zobe Sanje Rivada Shazon Demba Deverish. Jiden Jamba Jivon de Rakano Jivala Nam. Hadam Menam Jitemba Sanje Jumden de Beja. Shajato Vala Chasan Wachudo Jasush. Temba Jumden and the Jeshava Jumba Yada Zobe. Rivada Jason Demon Devarisha, Jiden Jamba Jubu, Kalo Juva Lana Mebal Hada Menam Jetamba Sanjum, Bejawa Shaja Tobana Chazano Chudo Jasu Shell, Kanze Ganya Zo Jatum Sea, Sajent and Combatum, Nane Jiden, and not Georgia Soma, Desekawa Jana Chans, Nanda Bunga Shodo Sosawa, Ishija to Sagan. Tabanjiden Somna Lameba, Gomboshonye Jona Chans, Central Demba Timenda Vesha, Sandon Dawa Jona Chans, the region of Silva Sumache, Yame Tinshin Jona Chans, Gombotuji Chedamba, Tamje Jemba Dumba, Solomia de Jasus, the Jenshala Chans, and what happened to Shachawa Jung giving yes. Chido Tanam Shojuva, Shinju Jona Chans, Chende Trigana. Labatala Rabdo Ne Shingatamba Yende Gendiola Chas. The Wachia Mishashi, Gawa Person Sobachi, Ragisim. Tene Sanje Dembaye, Kamara Rima Mena, you must have a Menam Loda Tenda Burun de Shaman Tetrit. Sonam Dia Tunje Siva, you Kovantum, the Kinja Tatu. Gadanada, Shira Ladri, Sive Solendro, what you show.
To the teacher,
the blessed one, the one gone beyond, the poor destroyer, the completely perfect, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Sugata, the road of the whole, supreme guide of beings to eternity, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer of the Shaja clan, I prostrate make offerings and go for refuge. To the teacher, the blessed one, the one beyond, the four destroyed, the completely and perfected, fully awakened, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Sugata, the one, supreme guide of beings to eternity, teacher of gods and humans, to you the complete and fully awakened, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer of the Shaja.
To the teacher,
the blessed one, the one born beyond, the poor destroyed, the completely perfected, fully awakened, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Sugata, the one, supreme guide of beings to eternity, teacher of gods and humans, to you the complete and fully awakened, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer of the Shaja clan, I prostrate and make offerings and worship.
when of supreme among humans you were upon this earth. You paced out 7 strides and said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise then I prostrate. With a pure body formed supremely pure, wisdom motion like golden mountain, flame that blazes in the 3 words. You know the best, to you I prostrate. With the supreme signs, face like spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. You are the maker of the 3 words on an incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the teacher having all understanding, the field of merit with the qualities like a vast ocean, to you the one gone to dustness I prostrate. The purity which makes one free from attachment,
the virtues which frees one from the lower realm, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to that Dharma which pacifies I prostrate. Those who liberate who also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with the realization, who are devoted to the moral precept. To you the sublime community, intending virtues, I prostrate. Coming in not virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star or mirage, a flammable, an illusion, a drop, a dew, a bubble, a dream, flash of light, a cloud. See conditioned things as such. Through this merit, may sentient beings attain the rank of all seeing, subdue the whole forms, be delivered from motional suffering of aging, sickness, and death. Sanje Chono Soje Chono No Chanchu Padu Dane Jasoje Dagen Jasoje Chono Dola Penche Sanje Druba Shugo Sanje Chono Soje Chono Chanchu Padu Dane Jasoje Dagen Jasoje Chono Je Dola Penche Sanje Druba Shugo Sanje Chono Soje Chono Chanchu Padu Dane Jasoje Dagen Jasoje Chono Dola Penche Sanje Druba Shugo Sanje Chono Soje Chono Chanchu Padu Dane Jasoje Dagen Jesu Jebe Sonam Jendola Penche San Jendu Show.
For refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha.
Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other professions, may I quickly attain the state of Buddha
for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened
to the Buddha,
Dharma, and Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other professions, may I quickly attain the state of Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings.
De Shashada Demono Gudo Done Jonga, Duda Medu Shinjono, Tembanina Gudu, Kanda Duda Medu, Chinjolo Tenjo, Teta Rajin, Tijin Moyanda, Dagi Union Minion, Chidabunya Chuba, Temen Yomonam Yende, Union Minion, Yomonam Yakambanya, Tene Yomania, Dagi Union Minion, Chidabunya Chuba, Temen Yomonam Yede, Union Minion, Mebata. The Shashana Demo Gundo Dono Junga, Duda Medu Shinjono, Tembanina Gundo, Kanda Duda Medu, Chinjolo, Tedarajin, Meditation, Moyanda, Daga Union Minion, the Chidabunya Chuba, Temen Yomana, the Union Minion, Yomota Kanga, Tan Chuba, Gamepa, the Kanga, Yomopata, Ralotashin, Yomon, Yomanchan, Ralotashin, Yomajan, Yomopan, Duda Medu Chinjolo, Rajin, the Duda Medu Shinjono, Tenem Yomopanda. Sura Roda Reba, the Cheda Jodan, the Shidan, the Jashan, the Timobin, the Imrata. Sura Roda Reba, the Cheda Jodan, the Chizeton Jota, the Medium Melon, you may give what over the Sonyanda, the Duba, and the Joan, Kala then the Dubas and Davacheva Medu, Dula Medu, Jun Duba, Kala then Medu, and Davacheva Duba, and Medu, 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 Duba Yavama and the Deja Yavakana, Medu Yavama and the Shadan Yavakana. Kedem meta tabaje tedan zimbolonye no tona meta yeme ba zimbaje to kedem meta tabaje tedan zimbolonye no tona meta pawaje zimbaje to kange zenda zimba da zimbo da kozo ba tamje nye rashi ba de jin zimba yu loba yanda nye de zimba yu ba ma nye da kama chinje lo yu je kama chinje ma chinje lo do kyo ba ma chinje lo de me de chinje lo do ma yu me chinje lo de me chinje lo do kyo je ma chinje lo de me de kama chinje lo zimba da nye je da chinje lo do ma je de chida do yu Chinjalo Gamen, the Chinjalo Jacalo, Yomo Dale made the Shame. Chinjalo, Over Dale made it, and over Dale made the Shame. Dada Shema Gamen, the Chinjalo Jacalo, get and Dada Sawan, the thought on the way, Dada Son, the Tabat and the Washington. Get and Dada Sawan, the thought and the women and the members of the Chinjalo. Maribana Gava, you Marangava, you know, the Jelas and Gava, you Cadena, and your Momo Kadara, Yavasuji Bomaja Kedela Lenyo Moba Kandara Jim and the Shadaba, Yavasuji Chinjalo of a Sheshava Naraduchiba Yusuma Kangi Jada Jiwano, Sudan, and Nova Tension to us on Tongatava, Charles. Okay, now. You remember which line we have stopped last?
Happy on 99, the hymn to the world transcendent. I think it's the very top that you just finished that verse.
Okay. Yeah, I think world transcendent. Without realizing the signlessness, there is no liberations. Hymn to the world transcendence. The Nagarjunas, there's a is praising to the Bodhisattva, that whole collection of the praises to the Bodhisattva. So in that kind of in the text, it says, without realizing the signlessness, there is no liberations. So which means signlessness. I think here the sign, tema, we call it tema. Sometime sign or the mark, right? So sign or the mark here is a kind of, something that some indicator or indicates you that things that really exist, right? So I think it's like maybe I'll just go through in the Sanskrit word Dharma. So in Tibetan and translate in Tibetan language as Chu, and the definitions of the Chu. So then it's like an entity. It's identified phenomena. Something that is identified phenomena, right? So in the English, maybe it's kind of, I think the best is the translation is the entity. Something that is identified in a single unit. The everything, right? There's many things to talk about, to conceive, to imagine, to create the imaginations. So now these are the indicator. Now sign or the mark means all this entity, the identified in single unit by the thought, but they seem to be exist, concrete and solid by itself. So the signlessness means the kind of the empty of their existing from their own essence, right? Empty of that. So without this, there is no liberations. So Nagarjuna praised the Buddha, saying, without realizing signlessness, there is no liberation. You have declared. So you taught that. Right? So you taught this signlessness. So without emptiness, there is no liberation that you declared. So that you taught in many ways to understand the signlessness in its entirety in the great vehicle. So that the way you teach us the emptiness and the great vehicle and the Mahayana Sutra, and through many ways, thousands of reasoning to constitute or to kind of, to make you reveal the essence of their and the realities. So sometimes, master, this is essenceless is the best essence-full. So essenceless, the Sautrantika, the nickname they call Essentialist. So everything that exists by their own essence. Essentialist. So Sautrantika School. And then here, the essenceless means things do not exist by their own essence. That very absence of the existing from their own essence is the best kind of, is most essential. Right. So so which means this is kind of, explaining that yes, emptiness has taught in the Hinayana Sutra and the Mahayana Sutra, but in the Mahayana Sutra, you have explained or teaches this through many ways. entirety in the great vehicle. The first two lines of this stanza show how, since it is impossible to exhaust afflictions without realizing the signlessness, it is thus impossible to attain the liberation without it. The final two lines, so you taught this signlessness is in its entirety in the great vehicles. The final two lines indicates that signlessness, the selflessness of phenomena, has been taught in its complete form or in entirety in the great vehicle. So when someone kind of say like that, and then there is misunderstanding. So Hinayana, the Arhat, and the Aryas kind of may not realize emptiness completely, right? So here, that does not mean that. So complete in entirety means, teaches the emptiness through the, the various of the reasonings, right? Teaches the emptiness through thousands of reasoning. And that only in the Mahayana Sutra, not in the Hinayana Sutra. Hinayana taught emptiness, that emptiness is the complete, but not entirety. I think which means because the Hinayana, their goal to achieve the peace, no suffering is their goal. So no suffering is the goal means they wanted to be free from the cause of the suffering, mainly focusing on free from cause of the suffering. So which means their kind of desire is free from afflictive emotions, delusional mind, right? So for that, overcoming afflictive emotion alone there is no need to exercise in each and every phenomena how they're empty of intrinsic existence. So, and they mainly meditate on absence of intrinsic existing of aggregates, absence of intrinsic existing of the person, right? So that should be enough for overcoming the afflictive emotions, because they are not seeking for. There's no seeking for. Their path is not design, or their path is not intent to achieve the great enlightenment. So for the Bodhisattvas, their goal is not just peace. Their goal is to free every sentient beings, right? To equip the great skill to overcome the suffering of all sentient beings without exceptions. So this is why the Bodhisattva need more wisdom, more knowledge, more sharp, right? So for that, and for the Mahayana Sutra, and the taught emptiness through thousands of reasonings. For this one, discern that the selflessness of phenomena is not taught in its entirety in the Hinayana teaching. Now, one might wonder, how does the word soul, so you taught the signlessness, so in the above quote, indicate that the selflessness phenomena is taught in its entirety in the great vehicle? Reply, without realizing signlessness, one cannot attain the liberation, the exhaustion of the afflictions. This means the selflessness of phenomena has to be taught even in the Sharvaka basket. Is taught, right? It's taught even in the not only Mahayana, even Sharaka basket. Yet there also has to be difference between Hinayana and Mahayana in this domain, and the line. So you taught this need to be explained in terms of the reason, indicating word so. This analysis reveals how the objections raised by Baba Vivek in his critique, as well as the contrary consequences it generates, flawed with no logical entailment. So Lama Tsongkapha quoted this from the Nagarjuna's text for the Baba Vivek questions. Baba Vivek says, if the emptiness is taught in Hinayana Sutra, so then there is no there's no need for the Mahayana path, because the realization emptiness is to attain the Buddhahood. So this realization emptiness, if practiced and meditated by the Hinayana, and then there is no need for the Mahayana path. So the Lama Tsongkapha says, first he wants to prove that the Hinayana and Mahayana is not really determined by realization emptiness. So rather, the Hinayana Mahayana means through the motivation or their intention, right? So Mahayana is not just by a great vehicle, by means of realizing emptiness, as through the practice of the compassions and the bodhicittas and the six perfections and great dedications, right? These are the quality that makes individual the Bodhisattva or the Mahayana, not the wisdom realizing emptiness. So the wisdom realizing emptiness is practiced and meditate by all vehicles. Now, when we say that all vehicles does not mean that every follower of the Buddha have realized emptiness. So they're all trying to understand the emptiness from their own way, right? So Sautrantika School, and wanting to kind of understand what is the signlessness. So their way of understanding the signlessness is the empty of permanent independent I. So they all try to penetrate the kind of, the misconceptions through their own kind of, the capacity of their wisdom. So the realization without liberation and Buddhahood is without realization emptiness is impossible. So this is the main point. And therefore, these objections Baba Viveka are contrary to reasoning, that they are contrary to the scripture has already been explained numerous times above. So in that case, one might ask, what then is the meaning of what this Master Chandrakirti says on the whether or not the self-lessness phenomena is taught in its entirety in the basket of Mahayana and the Hinayana, and on the whether or not one meditate on the self-lessness phenomena in its entirety on the path of both of these vehicles. So this is the questions. So do they have meditate on emptiness from the various reasoning? Reply, now the point is not all that realization that all phenomena lacks intrinsic existing is present in Mahayana practitioner, but absent in Shavaka and Pratika Buddha. So that does not mean that. So who possess only the partial realizations, or they realize only the certain phenomena devoid of intrinsic existence. For once one has established by means of the valid cognitions. So Lama Tsongkapha was laying out the reasoning, saying the emptiness, the emptiness taught in its entirety in the great vehicle does not mean the Sharvaga and the Pratyeka Buddha have partial realized emptiness, or so they only understand a devoid of intrinsic existing one partial phenomena, not others. So it is all these are all absurd thinking. So Lama Tsongkapha says, and the selflessness phenomena in relation to even the signless basis, then one examine other bases in terms of whether they possess true existence. Drawing on the previous reasoning, one will able to realize others lacking true existing, as a true existence as well. So the Pratyeka Buddha, if they wanted to know the emptiness of the phenomena, any kind of phenomena, easily they can reveal the emptiness of the phenomena, because they have already realized the emptiness of the aggregates and the emptiness of the person. But they don't really much exercise on all kind of phenomena, because for them it's not necessary. There's no need, because their goal is to attain the free from afflicted emotions, not the free from the obscuration to the knowledge. Some among those who claim to be proponents of the Madhyamikas, so Lama Tsongkapha is sarcastically saying to Bhava Vivek, proponents of the Madhyamika, while supposedly upholding the traditions, whether in the true existence of the entity has been negated, assert the emptiness of true existing itself to be truly established. So I think, this is not the criticism to the Baba Vivek. This is one of the masters in Tibet, because Chonamba. So he always claimed that he is the great Madhyamika, and he is the great practitioner of the Kala Chakra, Tantrayana. So he thinks that his point of view is the Madhyamika point of view, and he also call it the great Madhyamika, right? So some other assert that the ultimate nature of the things is affirmative truth, independent and truly established. Of these two, the first suffer from the flaw of not properly identifying the criteria of true existing. So they do not really have completely understand the what does that mean, that truly existing? What is the, what if things truly exist? So it means if things truly exist, like for example, if the self, the person is truly exist, so where do you see the self, right? So I see myself with body, I see myself with my feeling, I see myself with the activities of the eye consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness. So if the I is truly exists, as it appears to the mind, I or person should be exist within the aggregates, right? If within the aggregates, if the I exists within the aggregates, is it kind of, it exists like a flower in the pot, or it is the body. So any of you kind of, so that cannot be, it's not tenable because it's not possible. The person is being body is not really kind of, logically approvable. And the person existing in the body, like the person live in the cave or who is in the house. So that's also not logically approvable. So this first, to empty the truly existing, first you should know if things truly exist and how, in what manner they should be exist, right? So Lama Tsongkapha says this person not properly identify the criteria of true existence, thus negating only a rough approximation of it. The latter standpoint through casting itself as a having negated truly existing conditional things does not appear to have done so through valid cognitions. It instead appears to constitute of the view that denigrate the conditioned things. There isn't much left to say about this view beyond this point. So this Kunjen Chonamba, the great master Chonamba, he is the Kala Chakra. I think maybe, I'm not sure, but he is the first master in the Tibet who known as the great practitioner of the Kala Chakra, not the Kala, Kala Chakra. So I would kind of, sometimes if people say the Kala Chakra, Kala is the black, Kal is the time, right? Kal and Kala, so two things. Kal is the time. So this master who believes that the ultimate nature is the settled consciousness, which is the settled consciousness kind of realizing emptiness. The very settled consciousness which realized emptiness is the ultimate or ultimate truth. And other than that is the conventional. They only exist in mistaken consciousness. So Lama Tsongkapha says this kind of view that denigrate conditional things. So only the emptiness and the realization emptiness, the realize with settled consciousness, what do you call that? The clear light. So this master thinks that the clear light, which realize meditating in emptiness, is the ultimate truth. Rest, house, cow, the things that we see through the taste, sound, all are only exist in the mistaken consciousness, wrong perceptions. Right. So conventional exists merely in the face of mistaken consciousness. So only the ultimate nature, the clear light, is perceived and experienced by the valid cognitions. Right. So Lama Tsongkapha says, then you are denigrating the conditional things. Your things, the table is not really exist. It's not a reality, right? So yeah, to conclude, even when a Mahayana practitioner establishes the lack of true existing of even in a single basis, even in a single basis, he does not. He does so through the limitless, what's that, varieties of reasoning and the proof. So he also kind of, thinks this is the great point of view. Like those found in the fundamental wisdom, in this way, his intelligence comes to be greatly enhanced with respect to the suchness. In contrast, the Hinayana practitioner established suchness by means of the valid cognition only on the basis of the limited reasoning, since he does not proceed in a manner, commensurate of limit reasoning, commensurate to the former. Okay, so it's kind of limited, right? His enhancement of the intelligence with respect to the suchness is also not commensurate. Because of this, Chandrakirti distinguishes between the two in the following: how one employs the extensive form of reasoning, while the others condense, like briefly, in the form, condensed form of the brief, and how one engages in a comprehensive meditative practice of the selflessness, while the other less comprehensive and incomplete meditative practice of the selflessness. Such difference exists because the Shavaka and the Pradika Buddha strive only to eliminate the afflictions, while the Madhyamika practitioners strive to eliminate obscuration to knowledge. To achieve this latter objective, right? Yeah, objective. One's intelligence must be greatly enhanced by the blossoming of the one's wisdom, wisdom of suchness. So I think, Bodhisattvas are more intelligent, more skillful, more wiser than the Hinayana. So all kind of, directing to pointing out that the Hinayana and the Mahayana, in terms of realizing emptiness, there's no difference at all. So Hinayana and Mahayana all realized emptiness. All should have realized emptiness, right, in order to attain the liberation and the enlightenment. So rebutting objections not mentioned in the commentary. So Lama Tsongkapha, now he was, one might ask, be that as it may, how should one interpret following lines from the Ornament of Realizations? So Ornament of Realization says, because they have shunned the concept of held object, because they have shunned the concept of apprehending subject. Within these two is perfectly encompassed, right, of the path of rhinoceros-like. So like, so Ornament of Realizations have different, little bit kind of, different from the Sautrantika School point of view. So here's a kind of the emptying or negating external phenomena, right? By emptying external phenomena and realizing everything is subjective, everything is a part of consciousness, the mind only. So that's the one path. And then so this practice is, and then this kind of practice is meditated and contemplated by the Pratika Buddhas. So the Pratika Buddha, they call it a name of rhinoceros. So they are very kind of isolated in. And then so according to this Ornament of Realizations and the Sharvaka practitioners, they believe the external phenomena is truly exist. And what is not truly exist is the self-sufficient. So by that, they kind of, they meditate on the absence of self-sufficient I in order for free from the afflictive emotions. And the Pratika Buddha, Pratika Buddha is meditating on the absence of external phenomena and meditating that the everything is the nature of the consciousness, is everything subjectively existing. So and then the Bodhisattvas, this is the Bodhisattvas meditating on absence of truly existing. So they divided the path. This is for the Sharvaka, this is for the Pratika Buddha, this is for the Bodhisattvas. So and the Pratika Buddha, why they named the rhinoceros? Because the Pratika Buddha, from the beginning, they have their personality is a little bit different. The Pratika Buddha, from the beginning, they are naturally very, sharp-minded and the kind of, kind of the more compassion than the Sharvaka and less compassion than the Bodhisattvas. And they always remain isolated. They don't like to too much socialize. So from the beginning, they have this kind of personalities. So when they attain the first path and the second path, and they dedicate their whole merits in their to be born in where there is no Buddha and Bodhisattvas. So they wanted to help sentient beings who are not able to see the Buddha and Bodhisattvas. So they want to be born there, and without teachers, they recall their realization buddhism and continuously meditate and attain arhat. So Pratika Buddhas, they are named as a rhinoceros, right? And they have a little bit kind of a sense of pride, right? So they don't they don't much kind of because they are always isolated, kind of antisocial, and then kind of they always hide. They don't want to, some in the Tibetan traditions, they always recall their masters. I have received this teaching, this master. I have to. They never mention their teacher. They don't like to.
This means that the mind-only school has a direct relationship with the Pratika Buddha.
So this, the Ornament of Realizations, kind of dividing the path for Pratika Buddha and Sharvaka and Bodhisattvas. So this is not really accepted, agreed by the Prasanga school, Chandrakirti, but there are some master who, I think who they interpret the ornament of realizations in this way. This state, the Pratika Buddha path, to eliminate the conceptualizations clinging to the true existing in relation to the object, but not the relation to the subjects. They always, according to this masters, Pratika Buddhists meditating on, they are holding the mind-only school point of view. So they do not accept the external phenomena, but rather everything is subjective. The subject consciousness only truly existence. So also, how does one interpret the following, where the clinging to the true existing of the objects is said to be a obscuration to knowledge? This is more grosser level of obscuration to the knowledge. A more subtle obscuration to knowledge is truly existing of the phenomena, grasping truly existing of phenomena. Because they undermined, I think Lama Tsongkapha was trying to kind of, bring up this kind of the objections for people who want to study intensively. So this, Lama Tsongkapha said, this is there, right? So because they undermine the respectively that the three afflictions, knowable and the path, there are purities that of the Sharvaka and Rhinoceros and the Bodhisattvas. So the first Sharvaka is their goal is to overcome or to undermine afflictive emotions. And Pratika Buddhas not only wanting to overcome the afflictions, they also want to work on overcoming the obscuration to knowledge. So the Pratika Buddhas, their practice, their meditations, overcoming the obscuration to knowledge is their path, their wisdom is a little kind of more grosser than the Bodhisattvas the path to overcome the obscuration to knowledge. Right? So this is why afflictions, knowable, and paths, three is divided. And there are purities, nyamcharas. I think the way to apply the antidote for the negation element or for the obscurations. So that of the Sharvaka and Rhinoceros and the Bodhisattvas. Reply, there are only two senses in which Pratika Buddha supposed elimination of clinging to the true existing of the external object can be defined. One is that while the existing of the external object is established through the valid cognitions, their true existing is negated through the reasoning. And by meditating on this fact as set forth in the Madhyamika thought, one comes to eliminating the clinging to their truly existing. So alternatively, as in the Chittamatra thought, one negates the external object through the reasoning, and then by meditating on this fact, one eliminates the grasping at the existing of the external object. Of these two, if it is to be understood in the first sense, this is the untenable. So again, Lama Tsongkapha kind of first he kind of quoted from the different masters, and then he bring up his own argument, the critique, right? So untenable for it, while while capable of presenting the external reality in general, one has negated its true existence through the reasoning, probing into the truth of its suchness. Then, on the basis of the force of the previous reasoning, one should be able to, the instant one inquires to realize that the subjective cognition also truly exists. For example, Lama Tsongkapha says, like mind-only school, they are negating the external object by negating external object, and they come to understand everything is a part of consciousness. Everything is nature of the consciousness, mind only, right? The external object is non-exist. Only the external, kind of seemingly external, is projection or arises from the mind. The taste, color, everything arises from the mind. And in the reality, ultimately, they are all nature of the consciousness, right? So, and these masters are saying that, they negate the truly existing of external object, right? And they accept the subject as the truly exist. The Lama Tsongkapha says, it is impossible, untenable, if you are able to overcome the truly existing of the external phenomena, and you should be able to understand the absence of truly existing of the subject. So they are equally same. If the objects not truly exist, subjects not truly exist. So the how, and then Lama Tsongkapha, according from the ayah that was saying, the ayah that was states, he who sees the suchness of one thing sees the suchness of all things. So by seeing the emptiness of one phenomena is to see the emptiness of all phenomena. There is no kind of, you don't have to, reset the logic to establish another phenomena to empty of intrinsic existence. If you understand the emptiness of the table, and you will be able to recall the reasoning and understand emptiness of the chair, the house, the human being, everything, right?
So Lama Tsongkapha is saying that this definition of a mindful characteristic is incorrect.
So here Lama Tsongkapha says you can't say negating external phenomena, right? Negating external phenomena and believing the consciousness will truly exist. But you cannot say that negating the truly existing of external phenomena and accepting the truly existing of consciousness. So, so it kind of, the way you say is kind of, is not really correct. So this whole argument is kind of, directed to the, many great masters in India and Tibet, the well-known masters. Lama Tsongkapha trying to argue with those great masters. Choosing to understand the meaning in the second sense represents, in fact, the standpoint of the, commentarial tradition of the master like Haribhadra. So Haribhadra is the student of Vasubandhu. So he criticized, kind of bring the credit to his teacher. With Vasubandhu, his previous kind of, early kind of his understanding is Sautrantika School. The later life of him understanding is the mind-only school. So, and then after that again, he changed his point of view more like middle way at the end of his life. So he told the Haribhadra, right? So now this is the middle view point of view is the ultimate. So I have kind of done so many texts, book that all talks about this Sautrantika point of view in my own school. Now you have to bring how's that? You have to bring the argument to disapprove the Sautrantika school and my own school. So then Haribhadra and he did the commentary on the Ornament of Realizations. Within there, he criticized his own teacher's point of view and early standard point of views. Right. So these are all so many times. This you see in Tibet, Lama Jizun, Jizun Chu Ganzen. So and Jizun Chu Ganzen. Among his disciples, the best of his disciples. And then, so Jizun told him that now you should write some kind of commentary your own way, and that should not be matched with my point of view. So in his disciple write in a different way. So that really helps the monastery in the Ganden Sera. So here we are Ganden Changze and the Sera Che monastery are the follower of Jizumba, and then Loseling and the Sera Me, the follower of the Benja Sumatapa. So in the debate courtyard, there's a lot of debate. So it's totally contradictory. So the intentionally, and he taught his teacher, the student, that you have to write something opposite. It's not, they should not match with my way of the interpretations. So that helped us study more deeper. It's not like emotionally criticizing. It's sharpening your wisdom. So Haribhadras, according to them, the absence of external reality is established by the valid cognitions in general. Once the absence of external object has been established, so anyone, no matter how inferior his mental faculty, will affirm quite easily the fact that his perceiving subject does not exist as a separate substance from such purported, right? Object. Purported means
I could guess, but I don't know. Let me check.
It usually means what's like put forth, like something that's.
Oh yeah, it's not Yeah, assertions, kind of like the assertions.
It to be true.
Yeah. So they believe that is the true, right? So existing subject should be understood. Yeah. Purported subject. So the statement in the Ornament of Realization that Pratigya Buddha have not eliminated clinging to the truly existing of the subject should be understood to mean that they still hold the consciousness to be truly existent. It is definitely not the case that from one within the set of substantially distinct object and subject, Pratigya Buddha have negated one half while holding other half to be truly existent. So Lama Tsongkapha was very much kind of sharply criticism on this. But you can negate the external object, but you cannot say I have emptied the truly existing object, the external phenomena, while holding the other half to be truly existent. Regarding these two regarding those who, so some people, saying immensely, right? Remark that astonishing to see the similarity between the philosophical standpoint of particular Buddhas who propound the truly existing of subject and that of the Chittamatra who propound ultimate reality, the dual consciousness. So their laughter only reveals their own ignorance. So there's some master to say it, So there's, this is very kind of strange. The particular Buddhist point of view and Chittamatras is very similar in how astonishing it is. So Lama Tsongkapha says, so that reveals your own ignorance. so which means the commentary on the Ornament of Realizations, like the well-known great master in India, so they have sometimes they interpret in this way. This is also possible because it has to be many point of views. Because for the disciple, for the training, right? So everybody is not necessary to be the capable of knowing the emptiness of the Sanskrit School point of view. So you have to suggest, or you have to lay out many kind of standpoint of views. For Chittamatra School point of view, Sautrantika School point of views. So, like, when the they said the example, if there's a kind of river, the water, so there's the elephant comes, and the tiger, cow, and then smallest like a rabbit. So they all drink the water, but as much as they can. So the reality, as it is, the thusness is there. They're all trying to drink that according to their own capacity, the faculties, right? So how much they can understand. So they all get benefit from it. So Lama Tsongkapha says, don't laugh it. Here, the Ornament of Realizations, when describing the Pratyeka Buddha's path as the medium vehicle. So I think here there's a medium vehicle with respect to the subject and object and subject. By analyzing these two aspects, such as the vehicle described as a superior to that of the Shavaka and inferior to the great vehicle. So hence it is the medium vehicle. In this view, the person of three vehicles, lesser and the medium and the great, are characterized respectively as of inferior and the middling and the greater mental faculties. So, and then was I forgot this, how to pronounce it, hierarchy. Oh, again. Kind of, it reminds me of Japanese food. So some kind of the mental faculties presented particularly in the relation to the realization of no self, therefore the Madhyamika view, which represent the highest is correlate with the great vehicle. Chittamatra view is the correlate with the medium vehicle of the Pratyeka Buddha, and the lesser vehicle is correlate with the lowest view, namely the common level understanding of the selflessness of person. So though this is how they are defined in that text, this is not invariably the case, even from the position that accept the view of suchness is present in all three vehicles. it is not contradiction to say there are 3 levels of mental faculties defined on the basis of whether, for instance, one can penetrate the wheel of suchness in swift manner. So, lesser vehicle, middling, and the great mental faculties. So according to the faculty, and then you can say this is the lowest one, and middling, and the highest. So in Hinayana and Mahayana is according to the motivations, right? And sutra, when it says Hinayana Sutra, Mahayana Sutra means the sutra that teaches the emptiness through various reasoning. So it's my sutra, it becomes the Mahayana Sutra. And Hinayana Sutra means the sutra that teaches the emptiness and the brief reasoning. Right. So the grade and vehicle or slower, these are all respectively, sometime according to the faculty, sometimes according to the motivations, sometimes if that is the text and how it teaches. Right. So I think there is not much really in this way, we don't see much discriminations. If you're talking about this Hinayana Sutra and Mahayana Sutra means briefly teaching emptiness is Hinayana Sutra, and so emptiness teaches in the complete or entirety, right? So is Mahayana Sutra. Then when it comes to the person and who has developed a great compassion is the Mahayana, and who has generated renunciation but not great compassion is the Hinayana. So even that person is following the Mahayana, is still Hinayana, Mahayana Sutras, studying the Mahayana Sutra, following the Mahayana traditions. If you don't have the great compassions and you have the genuine desire to attain the liberations, then you're still the Hinayana vehicle. Yeah, right now we find the discrimination because we label people who follow Mahayana Sutra as Mahayana, right? People who follow Hinayana Sutra is Hinayana. It's just not necessary. Sometimes the shoemakers are more richer than the other business people. Sometimes the potter is more richer than the restaurant owners. So the follower of the Hinayana Sutra can be great Mahayana, and the follower of the Mahayana Sutra can be Hinayana. I think Hina is always like smaller or thinner. They use that term. Yana is the vehicle, the carrier, how much it can carry, right? So given that ornament of realizations differentiate the inferiority and superiority of the Pratika Buddha and the Bodhisattva vehicle, respectively, on the basis of whether or not clinging to the truly existing of the subject is eliminated. The view of selflessness taught in the ornament of the realization cannot be described as the Chitramata view. Chitramata view, as is the case with the ornament of Mahayana Sutra and the two differentiations. Even in India, there were approaches to reading the Ornament of Realization that interpreted it according to the Madhyamika as well as those interpreting it according to the Chitramatra. So there thus is the needed to say a lot about the reason for these different interpretations, varying the expensive length. However, I will not write about them here. So I think the point is the lower and the middling and the grade are sometimes according to the faculty, sometimes according to the motivations, sometimes according to the kind of the way they explain things, right? So Ornament of Realizations also has the following stanzas, which indicates that even among the Sharvaka and Pratika Buddha, some possess the realization of selflessness of phenomena, because no differentiation exists in ultimate. So this ornament of reasoning, ornament of the realizations by Asanga. So in this says that because of no differentiation exists in the ultimate expanse, so there is no differentiations when it comes to nature of the phenomena, so ultimate nature of the phenomena. Everything is totally absence of truly existence. Within the absence of truly existence, there's nothing to find. This is Hinayana, or this is Mahayana. This is the middling, or this is the lower, or this is great. Because in the face of the realization emptiness, what it sees is everything is totally absence of truly existence, right? From there, there's no kind of, no Hinayana and Mahayana. There are no great and middlings, nothing. So differentiation in the ultimate expense. No differentiations. Now the distinction of the lineages, then how there is, like in the absence of intrinsic natures within, in the face of, from the point of view of the absence of intrinsic existence, there is no Mahayana, there's no great Hinayana, right? And how this happened to exist in Mahayana and Hinayana is not in emptiness. So then says the lineage cannot be sustained, right? Distinction of lineage cannot be sustained within the from the point of view of emptiness. Now, due to particularities, right, of the support attributes, distinction are spoken of in relation to it. So the Mahayana and Hinayana is not from the point of view of the emptiness. So emptiness is the basis. Emptiness is the basis for the Hinayana and the Mahayana path. So then Hinayana and Mahayana is through another attributions or characteristic. The great compassion, so bodhicitta, makes the individual Hinayana and Mahayana, right? So who lacks the great compassion in Hinayana, who possess the great compassion is Mahayana. So distinction spoken of in its relation to it. With respect to the term the ultimate expense, Dharma Dhatu, light on the perfections of the wisdom in the 25,000th line says conceptualization. So Lama Tsongkapha kind of bringing he quoted from the sutra, in the Mahayana Sutra. So in the Mahayana Sutra, it says conceptualization or true conceptualization. Toba, number tobas. Conceptualization through conceptualization refer to manifest clinging to the entity, right? Conceiving or through conceptualizations, things that is really exist through the conceptualizations, or things that exist simply by conceiving it. So both clinging, both indicates there is some kind of entity, right? So if you cling to the entity, if you're grasping an entity, so all entities are conceptualized and exist through the conceptualizations. Every entity is. So if you cling to it, if you start to grasping it, so entity and their signs, since the ultimate expense is the devoid of such conceptualizations, so in the reality, or in the ultimately, nothing really truly exists. Understand this to be absence of attachment itself. So the mind that is, so mind that is have gotten, that is kind of the absence of intrinsic existing, or the absence of truly existing, itself is absence of attachment of it, right? No fixations, nothing to grasp, right? So this non-existence itself is the, I think here is this deadness of all phenomena. So in the presence of Bodhisattva, we call thusness, right? Thusness. So thusness means as it is, right? So therefore, it is stated here that because it is the ultimate experience itself, which is the cause of the quality of all, quality of the aryas. So naturally abiding lineage is the basis of meditative cultivations. This emptiness is the cause of all aryas, means all aryas born from realization emptiness. So that's why wisdom realizing emptiness is called mother of all aryas.
What is a naturally abiding lineage?
Natural abiding means like every sentient beings, even the trees, the plants, naturally abide in that absence of intrinsic existence. Everything arises from the emptiness. So to kind of, to attain the liberation or enlightenment, first we have to, train our mind and placing our mind with that very nature of the phenomena, right? The ultimate nature of the phenomena. To touch that, to taste that, and then individual become the aryas. Right? So I think it's also kind of implying that mainly intellectual or conceptual is not necessarily you have, even the concept is, the concept of emptiness, Nagarjuna's point of view, even that understand through intellectual, still not enough for you to attain the liberations. So you have to kind of, you have to actualize, or you have to experience that the absence of intrinsic existence. You have to abide in it, right? So by abiding in the absence of intrinsic existence, then individual, the person become the Arya. So I think this is also Nagarjuna's in root of the middle way also says, Shen mi shiva. So your kind of your knowledge, right? And make sure that your knowledge of the knowledge of emptiness is not someone input, right? Someone kind of told, and you just by believing in it, right? Through many reasoning and conceptualizing is also not enough. And then because why? So as a result, the kind of the result of the result of abiding in emptiness is to find the peace, right? So that peace through pacification of the mental construct, right? So is a kind of sustainable, reliable, infallible peace, right? So this peace is through kind of the pacifying the mental construct, pacifying the deceptive phenomena. So which means you have to, your mind has to place, or your mind has to directly kind of, they abide or landed in emptiness, right? Then, and what is the sign? What is the reason to finding peace through the abiding in emptiness? Means because there is peace, because when your mind is abiding in emptiness, there is no any misconception, and even the conventional knowledge has no place to reach, right? So there is no concept to create. So while you are in emptiness, right, your mind is abiding in emptiness. So the characteristic of the being able to abide in emptiness, right, is because there is no concept to reach at the point.
You said this was from Root of the Middle Way?
Yeah.
What chapter?
Chapter 18. Chapter 18. So because earlier this says, so people find a lot of kind of arguments. There must be some kind of objections. There must be some ambiguity because of all this, due to not knowing the purpose of the emptiness and emptiness itself. Meaning of the emptiness, purpose of emptiness and meaning. So meaning means, first, the purpose of emptiness is to pacify the mental construct and experience the peace, right? And emptiness means absence of truly existing, absence of intrinsic existing. And the meaning of the emptiness means by emptying the truly existing, right, truly existence, and and subsequently you come to understand things like dependent arising. So meaning of emptiness is the dependent arising. So the meaning of emptiness is not a annihilation, not a non-existing. So thus ultimate experience is defined in terms of the emptiness of truly existing, which is the non-existing of entity and their sign as grasped at by the attachment and clinging to truly existing. Truly existence, yeah. So every phenomena, or the sentient beings and every entity is, embedded in emptiness, arise from emptiness. So in order for attain the Arya, so you have to, you have to reach, you have to be able to directly experience that nature of the phenomenon, ultimate nature of the phenomenon. The following these explanations, an objection is entertained. If
That's right.
if ultimate experience is the lineage, so it's lineage. I think here this lineage. I'm not sure. This is the lineage. How it's kind of a nature. Buddha nature, we call Buddha natures. Nature of the phenomena, ultimate nature of the phenomena. So here they translate as the lineage. So if ultimate experience is the lineage, is the nature, all sentient beings would abide in the nature of the ultimate nature. I think it's again this is lineages. For the ultimate experience is reside universally in all. Here, abiding in the lineage is understood in terms of abiding in the. I think it's better to say the nature in the context of the path. So I think the whole this all kind of talking with the same point. So in response, Vimukti Sena writes that so Bhagavad Gita, they speak of the lineage as that which I don't know this lineage. Lineage usually kind of something that is more conventional, right? Lineage is descendants, the lineages, so more conventional.
They're negating it too. It says no such observed consequence ensues.
Yeah, I mean, there's speak of the lineage as that which, when taken as an object, serve as the cause for the quality for Aryas. So Arya means now, no such absurd consequences ensue. So taken as object means now this is not a negation. Object means kind of, object means subject, object means noble, something kind of become noble. So that is the object here. It's not an objection. So, and then what? By observing or kind of, engaging or abiding in that emptiness is the cause for the quality of all Aryas. So then you become Aryas, right? So Aryas, the kind of Shavaka Aryas, Pratika Buddha Aryas, Bodhisattvas, all born from one mother, which is wisdom realizing emptiness. So no such absurd consequences ensue. So it is not the case that the mere presence of the ultimate experience entail abiding in the lineage on the level of the path. Rather, the meaning is that when the path takes suchness, as its object and meditate upon it, and when it becomes thereby the special cause for the quality of Aryas, its suchness is then posited to be a special kind of lineage. However, the response to the objections, since there is no differentiations in the ultimate experience, distinctions of the lineage of three vehicles cannot be sustained. So again, saying it is explained that has a distinctness of the lineage is spoken of on the basis of the distinctions of the path. So not from the point of view of the emptiness, or rather from the qualities of the path or the characteristic of the path. So the support attributes that takes lineage as their object. Here the basis referred to the object of focus. Focus, focal object. And support to what supposed to that which focuses within that which focuses the true vehicle of the Sharvaka and the Pratika Buddha are included as well. So again and again saying the focus, by focusing, by observing, by abiding, and there are three vehicles. All these vehicles are happen to arise from that realization emptiness. So now the take suchness as object, suchness must be present in the perspective of such cognitions and within the and without negating true existence within the perspective of one's cognitions, the emptiness of the true existence simply cannot be established in that perspective. If there is not established, if this is not established, the ultimate reality will not be established within one's cognitions. This in turn needs to be ascertained first in relation to the given basis. And this above stanza from the Ornament of Realizations indicate how even among Sharvaka and Pratika Buddha, there are those who, on the basis of the focusing on the external object and internal object, perceive their ultimate reality, the absence of true existence, understood. Thus, even some Pratika Buddhas have realized the truth of suchness. Therefore, it is not the case that Pratika Buddha are,
Uniformly?
Yeah. Therefore, the Pratika Buddha are uniformly incapable of eliminating the clinging to the true existence of consciousness, since in this way we also need to distinguish between two kinds of Sharvaka. So those who have realized the suchness and those who have not. So Lama Tsongkapha is saying that according to the Sautrantika School point of view, so the statement, the ornament of the realization is we cannot accept and literally. So an ornament realization is saying that dividing the path, Sharvaka and Pratika Buddha and Bodhisattvas. Sharvaka says you meditate on the absence of self-sufficient I, but you believe that truly existing external phenomena. And Particular Buddha said, you meditate on the absence of truth, external phenomena, right? And accept the consciousness truly exists. And for the Bodhisattva says, Bodhisattva meditate in the emptiness of the truly existings. So Lama Tsongkapha says, this is not, we cannot accept literally. So we can say, yes, this is the one of the, yes, this is also possible. So the follower of the Buddha, it's not necessarily everybody realized emptiness, but you cannot divide the Pratika Buddha, Sharvaka, and from the point of views, because so the Pratika Buddha, Sharvaka, Bodhisattvas all has to arise from realization emptiness, right? So almost like you're feeding the different, like this is the dog food, this is the cat food, this is the human food. Now you're a human being, you eat this. You're a cat, you eat this. So this is not really kind of, not the actual way. So yeah, distinction between kind of Shabaka and the Pratika Buddha, suchness and also not have. So the Ornament of Realizations mention two kind of Hinayana practitioners. So Lama Tsongkapha says, from the Prasangika school perspective, this is we can say, we can think of the two kind of Hinayana practitioners. Hinayana practitioners which has realized emptiness of the truly existing, and Hinayana practitioners which has not realized the absence of truly existence. This we can understand. So therefore, when it comes to the grasping at the true existing of the subject and object as a substantially distinct, we must, according to this text, identify two types. One that constitute the subtle obscuration to knowledge, and one that does not. So the Prasangika school agree or accept the external phenomena, Prasangika school, but no intrinsic external phenomena, but external. External means, so Prasangika school says the definition of external is the object that you see through the sensual are known as external, right? So the object not necessarily exists by their own essence. External and internal means you create imaginations, right? That's internal. You see through your eye outside of the eye sense power. So that's the external, right? So, kind of absence of truly existing external and absence of truly existing of internal consciousness is the same, right? If you realize the absence of truly existing external phenomena, you will, right, without any effort, you will realize the emptiness of the consciousness. So the external and internal is not, there is no intrinsic, right? The both is not intrinsic, exist equally absence of intrinsic. So if one contained, right? One contains that the dispute here is not about the untenability of distinctions of the lineage of the three vehicle, but about inappropriateness of the divisions into the 13 lineage. This too is incorrect. For example, the light on the perfection of the wisdom and the 25,000 lines. This is like this statement in the sutra. So, Manjushri, if there is one ultimate expense, the one suchness, one perfection's endpoint, how can such label as a suitable, reciprocal, right? Receptible, suitable receptacle and unsuitable receptacle be applied to it. So in this, Buddha says to the Manjushris, when there is one ultimate, which is absence of truly existence, and then there's the one path to the liberation, one path to the enlightenment. So what is that? Because the realization of that suchness, that absence of truly existing, right? So suchness, and one perfect endpoint, yantavata, one perfect endpoint. So endpoint, previously I mentioned that yantavata means kind of, the attainment that there is total elimination of any sign or the indicator of the truly existence is the end point. So Buddha's omniscience is in that end point, which implying that the Shabraka and the Pratyeka Buddha are hearts. Although they are free from afflictive emotion, there is no misconception, but in their mind, there's an indicator, a sign is still there. So with that sign, there are more kind of, tendency to following or the in the peace, and there is some kind of a tendency to not to actively go to help sentient beings because of this, the kind of so sentient beings are they are kind of sentient beings do not sentient being has no habit of dwelling in the truly existent nature of the phenomena. Sentient beings, they don't have the tendency, or they don't have the habit of liking an ultimate nature. So the arhat, they kind of convinced they are in that absence of intrinsic existence, but there's the sign of the intrinsic existence in their mind. So Buddha, he abides in emptiness, and he's free from any sign of intrinsic existence. So the perfect endpoint is like that. I think, we can understand ordinary sentient beings. We don't. So I think we don't feel like there's some kind of things are totally absence of intrinsic existence. We don't feel it, we don't think it, right? So everything is, like you said, it's like everything is miracle and magician phenomena. Like everything is just conceptualized, right? Everything is conceptualized. It's kind of hard to understand, hard to really digest that. So we rather feel more comfortable, comfortable in the truly existence. So there's something to detach, something to attach. And then we think this is normal. I'm in normal life. So people says, sometimes people find strange to someone who is kind of, some people, they don't get angry. Maybe people think that, oh, he must have some disease. So, so there's something problem, yeah. So the sentient beings, there's a tendency to find comfort or feel home in the truly existence, right? The ordinary sentient beings. Our heart abide in the absence of truly existence, but their mind is not totally free from the sign of truly existence, because the stain of the affliction is still there, right? The garlic has cleaned up, but still the smell is there, right? So the Buddhas, yeah. So in the Manjushri, this Buddha says to the Manjushris, there's ultimate expense, one ultimate expense, one suchness, and then one perfect endpoint. The Buddha is kind of, we call dust gone, right? Dust gone. He settled in that ultimate nature forever, inseparably, right? So that's gone. Tathagat means like that, right? Tathya means as it is, right? So in Hindi, sometimes what is the tathya? What is tathya? What is the meaning of it? What is the essence of it, right? So tathyata, right? This is the tatha is the as it is, right? So the Buddha's omniscience is inseparable and forever settled in that absence of intrinsic existence. So the one perfect endpoint. How can such label is suitable? Then the question is, if everything is rise in kind of dissolve and remain in the absence of true existence, and why such kind of labeling that, oh, this is not suitable, how's that, receptacle, yeah, is suitable to be able to know the emptiness. This person is suitable to be knowing emptiness. How can you say that? So everything's arise, embedded, dissolve, everything from the absence of intrinsic existence. This suchness is the kind of is the ground, is the fundamental basis for every existing, every living things. Right. So the why some sentient beings are not suitable to knowing, why some sentient beings is more capable of kind of finding the access, this suchness. So that's the Buddha's questions, but we don't see Manjushri answer. Sutras here they raise the question of how can determine, given there is no affliction, has no differentiations in the ultimate expense. In the ultimate expense, from the point of view of emptiness, there is no big, no small, no great, no middling. Right. So I think, yeah, who is the receptacle of the great vehicle and who is not? This current argument is similar to the previous one. The debate is about unsustainability of maintaining the distinct lineage of the great and the lesser vehicle, for it is interpreted in terms of 13 lineage. The objections about whether someone is the suitable or unsuitable receptacle simply cannot be raised, the great masters, Haribhadra, Chu, uphold the positions consonant, right, with that of the Arya Vimukti Sena. Now the question is the same thing. So ornament of precious garlands, because of no differentiation exists in the ultimate expense. Or you say, Buddha says, there is one suchness, right? One ultimate expense, one suchness, one perfect endpoint. There is no another options. There is no the alternate for the suchness. And why some are able to understand that, why some are not capable of knowing that. So this whole kind of, the differentiations, they are not from the standpoint of view, ultimate point of view. For example, ultimately, I myself totally absent in the five aggregates, and I do not exist, right? Apart from the aggregates, I also absent within the aggregates. Then how can I be sometime happy, sometime not happy, sometime good person, sometime bad person, sometime short, sometime tall, sometime angry, sometime attached? So there's questions like that. So although in the reality, ultimately you have no objectively groundable within the aggregates or outside of the aggregates, but depending on your body, right? Depending on your body, you can say, I'm big, I'm small, I'm thin, but depending on the relatively comparing with your size of the body to another body, and you come to understand, oh, I'm short, I'm tall, right? So by depending on that, so this whole dependent arising means things do not exist. Things are totally absent in intrinsic existence. If things are not absent to truly existence, things cannot be arising dependently. Right? If myself intrinsically exists, or if I am ultimately the body, so I cannot be sad, I cannot be disappointed, I cannot be excited, right? I cannot be smart. So if because of myself being empty and totally absence in the body and totally absence in the feeling, now I can manifest by depending on the body, short and tall, strong and weak, and by depending on the feeling, I can be excited person, right? And depending on the anger and attachment, and I can be angry, I'm attached, or depending on the faith, oh, I am this religion or that religion. So, because you are totally absent in your friend, you are totally absent in your size of your friend, body size of your friend. But depending on them, you can be short and tall, right? If you are there and you cannot be tall and short, right? So dependent arising, meaning of the emptiness is dependent arising, right? Why things dependent arising? Things do not exist intrinsically. So things do not exist intrinsically, but therefore things has, like a taste has identified in a single unit or in a separate from the color by the conceptual, right? The taste by itself, if the taste is by itself kind of, separate from the color, right? And then color is by itself separate from the taste. So both are form, physical. So physically they are separate. So like cow and horse. So wherever you see the color, there kind of very location that you see the color, there should not be any taste. Right? So there have to be all the taste, color, tactility within the braid, and they have to be located and separately. So wherever there's softness of the braid, there should not be any taste of the braid. So conceptually, it is being kind of identified separate. So therefore, entity of the taste, right? The taste is by itself an entity, right? Yeah. Any questions? Unquestionable. I think the whole book, right? So every part of the chapters, every part of the pages. So the main point is saying things do not exist by their own essence, right? Because of that, and you can say so much, you can find too many, right? Otherwise, if things do exist by their own essence, and there should be maybe in whole world, maybe there's maybe maximum there's a 20 or 50. Like, Papa, I think, I don't know what's the Sanskrit name of that. Maybe Vedantikas and some of the West, whatever. Upapa and Chirabas, they think that every phenomenon can be included in the category of 6, right? And then Samkhya school says you can include everything in 25.
I'm not sure the debate about the 3 lineages or the 3 vehicles. Are they just looking at the Sharvaka Pratibuddhas and
so this saying that
from different angles, or?
So normally and generally, concept of the lesser, middling, vehicle is not from the ultimate level, not from the point of view of the ultimate, is from the characteristic. Characteristic means it characterized by depending on something else, right? Something else. So here you can divide it lesser, you can divide it in the lesser vehicle, middling vehicle, the great vehicle by depending on the faculties, right? You say, oh, Sharvakas, the faculties, they only understand absent self-sufficient I. They do not understand the absence of the external object. So that's the lesser, and relatively, and now the Pratika Buddha, and they realize absence of self-sufficient I and the absence of the external object. So it's kind of relatively, this is kind of, little bit more kind of sharp than the Sharvaka. So relatively, you can find lesser and middling in the vehicle. Right? So ultimately, there is no lesser, there's no middling, there's no great. So this is sort of finding yourself sometimes short and sometimes tall. If the ultimate, and you have to be, if you are tall, you have to be tall all the time. So you are becoming today tall and tomorrow short, means that you are existing, right, in that, with that characteristic is depending on something else. So that's why people, so I'm wanting to be a business, I'm wanting to be an engineer, I'm wanting to be the pilot. So that means that if you want, and by itself, and there's no need to want to be. So if you wanted to becoming something else, right? Else right now, by depending on something, therefore you tried to reach that, the characteristics.
So in these last few pages, are they looking at the lineages relatively and ultimately?
Yeah, lineages are relatively, not ultimately. So I think why? Because the Dharma that interpreted in some of the non-Buddhist school is Dharma or entity is independent, right? So, like, some may think that, the taste by itself is entity. So when you say the taste by itself is entity, so it is entity from the color and the tactility. So then the taste exists by its own nature. So taste is independent. So when you interpret whole Dharma is like that, everything is independently by its own essence.
Mm.
So I mentioned in India, there's a culture who follows that an old time. Right now it's changed, right? Before, if your father is shoemaker and the whole son, generations, just kind of making shoes. If the father is a butcher, the generation whole son, they go and kill the animals. If the king, so his son and his whole generations trying to be king. So they think this is God-given nature. So there's a prakrti, and in English, which is by natures. As a good person is by nature, bad person is by nature. And why? So that means the bad person has no hope to be a good person.
So the Sravaka Buddha is a lesser vehicle depending on their understanding of the lack of sufficient I, and relatively in comparison, the Prada Buddha is a middle vehicle because it understands the absence of, I guess, still self-sufficient I and the external object.
Yeah.
Absence of intrinsic nature. So relatively, compared to Prada Buddha, it's the middle. And compared to, is that kind of what we're looking at in all that?
Yeah. That's. Yeah, in the school there was the senior students and senior student or junior students. So relatively, right? They come. So one who has come earlier, and so they think the new students are junior, they are senior students. If they determine by age, sometimes the older person, when he newly joined the school, right, he has to be senior. So this kind of discriminations, even in the monastery, the monk, we do that a lot. So sometimes the household men, right? So they join the monastery. The young monk, when maybe they are 5, 6. There's a story in our in monastery. There's one little monk, very little monk, and so yeah, when he shows the older monk, he know that older monk. I think he was monk in Tibet, and he went to somewhere. He spent whole life. When he got very old, and he come back to the monastery. So this small monk thinks that he's the younger. I saw him coming. So one day he was playing out, and the old monk says, "You are not allowed to play here." And then he said, "You as junior." So there are some kind of the notions of who is senior, who is junior. So there's one of during the Bodhisattva Muni, we call, I think his name is Rakul, or I don't know. So there's a kind of relative of the Bodhisattva Muni who has joined the monastery much, much later, because he belongs to the royal family, right? He looks very kind of, looks kind of, how to say, impressive, because the physical. So he joined newly in the monastery. And then he always pretend, if new monks come, he pretend that so he is the senior. so one day, so there are some monks, joined for the Bodhisattva's teaching, and coming from another monastery. So they do not know about this monastery. So, and then this new monk, the old man, sitting outside, and then the monk from another monastery came, and they looked, he's old, and they all kind of do the prostrations, and he just sit there just blessing everybody. And then so monks, the younger monks, they kind of laugh at him. So he's not a senior, he's junior. So he was very upset. And went to the Buddha and says, he complained. So this monks kind of criticized me, and they disrespect me, they insult me. So, and there's one of the line in the Dhammapada, there's a line I don't remember this. That's the one line which means who insult me, who defeats me. So if you think that way, so kind of that if it continues thinking that way, this is the cause of the causing suffering to yourself, and you have to know that there is no self to be insulted. There is no self to be disrespected. So this particular teaching advice to this kind of old monk. So at the relatively things are, even you're with, maybe you are younger by the age, but you can be senior. Right? So particular Buddhas, Charvakas, they are not really kind of, they are not really differentiated through the realization emptiness, and from the point of view of emptiness, they are not really separate. There's no different distinctions of the lesser and the middling. So when it comes to the faculties, how much they can know, what are their motivations, then you can, depending on that, you can differentiate this the lesser vehicle, this the great vehicles. So I think, it's incorrect to say the people who follow Mahayana tradition, they claiming they are Mahayana. So that's incorrect. Okay. Chanju simje rumbuji majeba na jejuji jeba nyamba meba nyo konde kondo pegosh. Tonye dawa rumbuji majeba na jejuji jeba nyamba meba nyo konde kondo pegosh. Pama simje damje dedan denjuji ngenro tumje dado ton chanju simba kana suju be deda gunju molom jojuruji. Kanri rabe kobe shilansu pendan dewa madun juwe ne. Jere sawa tinze jazu yeshabe sede badu denjuruji.
May the precious body mind not yet on horizon grow. May the bone have not declined but increased forever. May the precious mind realizing emptiness not yet on horizon grow. May the bone have not declined but increased forevermore. Due to all these merits, may all father and mother sentient beings have all the happiness. And may all lower realms be empty forever. Wherever there are bodhisattvas, may all their prayers be accomplished immediately. In the sacred land surrounded by snow mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness. Oh, powerful Signlessness and Chu, remain in this world until samsara ends.
Thank you very much. All right.